So, a couple of things that I want to accomplish with you guys listening to me for a little bit today. First is I want to teach you a little bit about the core functions and services of fire suppression agencies in the state of Oregon, like what we actually do on a day-to-day basis and what kind of stuff we work on. Uh, I want to, teach you a little bit about the ways that I utilize tools from GIS to assist fire suppression agencies in accomplishing their mission. We'll talk about some of those, in more specifics here. And then I want you to think about ways that you might use these tools to accomplish the mission of whatever profession you end up working in. I want you to know that a lot of the ways that I use GIS, they are things that I learned in college, either in my bachelor's program or in during my master's program, where I was introduced to a GIS tool through a class, and I was like, wow, they're talking about using it for this capacity, but I see a way that I could use it for this capacity, and I was able to then take that to my agency um, and use it to create something that was not previously there. So I know that Dr. Fish has told me that many of you have very different majors that you may be in. Some of you are geography majors, some of you are other majors. Some of you, even amongst those of you who are geography majors and whatnot, I know you have a very wide, broad, uh, you know, diverse group of interests that you all are wanting to do. And what I would really encourage you to do is think about the tools and how they work, and don't just think about the way that I use them, but think about, if you wanted to go into politics or you want to work, doing GIS work for people that relating to public infrastructure, or you want to work for the US Geological Survey, or you want to work for the Forest Service, or you want to work for wherever, think about ways that this may help you accomplish the mission of what it is that you want to do. Because a lot of GIS is not something that people are familiar with. And so seeing ways that you can take those tools and apply them in a way that will help advance your particular area of interest may not be something that presently exists, and it might be an innovation that you could, you know, take advantage of for yourself and for wherever it is that you end up working. So, jumping into the way fire departments slash districts work, basically the distinction there that you should know is a fire department is part of a city. So, in Eugene, there's actually a fire department that works very closely with the Springfield Fire Department, but they're departments of a city, so they fall under the governance of the city council as far as how the decisions are making the budgeting and all that stuff. A fire district is an independent special district that provides fire and EMS services. So that's like what I work for as a fire district. And fire districts have their own independent board of directors, and they have their own independent tax revenue source. So they don't actually have to receive funding from, say, the city council or someone like that, and they're not really subject to our revenue being cut in the same way because we have dedicated revenue for us. But that also means we can't really get. It's very difficult to get additional revenue when you need it as well. So there's trade-offs. The number one most common type of call that we go on these days is actually emergency medical services calls. So we'll take the fire engine and we'll go to somebody's house. Usually we can get there faster than the ambulance because there's not a whole lot of ambulances available at any given time. And they tend to come from, inside this, for our area, they come from Eugene and Springfield. There's only, off the top of my head, there's only about, probably between 12 and 15 ambulances available for the whole county at any given time, as far as that are actually staffed and active. Um, so it can become, important to get people who are trained to start emergency life-saving medical care on scene right away. Even if the ambulance doesn't arrive quite yet to take that person to the hospital, we can respond and say that somebody's having a heart attack or a stroke. We can begin immediate treatment for those things and start the process of getting them the interventions that they need so that they can hopefully survive the incident, which, oftentimes emergency medical calls, it's not really ideal to deal with that with just two folks on an ambulance. So we'll bring the fire engine out and assist with that, and that's our primary type of call that we run by number of calls. Of course, we also have the fire suppression component, structural and increasingly wildland urban interface fires. While wildland urban interface is a term that is commonly used uh, to discuss areas where you have um, basically human development that's been built in an area that's got a lot of complex fuels, and that there's a significant risk of wildfire due to fuels, topography, and other risk factors, access concerns, etc. Um, so wildland urban interface areas are areas that are of significant concern to us. We end up doing quite a bit of wildland firefighting. Technically speaking, our mission is to protect structures, but we do, for especially smaller wildfires that are throughout our agency, we'll suppress 15 to 20 wildfires, or assist at least in suppressing 15 to 20 wildfires per season, on average. Depends on the year. To just kind of get those kind of things under control, and especially if they're small, get resources on them quick while they're small before they get big. We also do some technical rescue stuff, so we'll respond to some water rescue calls. We'll respond to, probably our most common technical rescue type is vehicle extrication. So somebody has been in a motor vehicle accident and they're trapped inside the vehicle, and maybe the doors won't open, and situations like that. Vehicle's upside down on its side, those sorts of deals. We're trained and carry the equipment to go ahead and cut people out of cars, and deal with that sort of stuff there. And then, basically anytime somebody's life is in jeopardy, they need to be rescued, including from, a house fire or something like that. And that's our deal as well. We also do some fire prevention and mitigation work, to try to prevent these incidents from happening in the first place. And, one of the things we've been working on in our particular area is there's a community working on what's called a Firewise community, where they're going and doing fuels reduction, trying to, help have their neighbors aggressively try to create defensible space, which is space around their houses that does not have, heavy fuels like, large trees and bushes and things like that, making the conditions where we can go and safely protect their houses from a wildland fire if that need does arise. And, dealing with some pre-planning stuff. My project area kind of tends to get into that area as well. Interfacing with community members, talking to people about putting in secondary access on really geographically constrained areas, like roads that go through a very narrow canyon. For example, it can be hard to get alternative, like, egress routes, ways out, if the fire was to block, say, the one way in, one way out that you can normally use. Working with people to potentially spend some private dollars to, improve driveways and other ways to make it so that there's another way that the people who live on that road could escape from the fire if they absolutely needed to.